Hi, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. My name is Andy Kirtland, and I'm the Manager of Customer Success here at Documoto. I'm joined by Krista Bemis, the Director of Product. Together, we're excited to share some exciting changes upcoming to our library searching features that we hope will significantly improve your end user's experience in Documoto. In September, you should have received an email from your Customer Success Manager regarding these updates. This webinar aims to elaborate on the details shared in that communication, as well as provide you a preview of what's to come. During the webinar, I'll be answering any questions you post in the Q&A section of the webinar, and we'll also save time at the end for additional inquiries. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and will be made available on our knowledge base. Given that we only have 30 minutes, I'm going to hand it over to Krista to get us started.
Thanks so much, Andy. And yeah, thank you to everyone that's joining us today. We do have just a couple slides to kick us off. But to start, someone once said, great products focus on the user experience, making the complex simple. And when we originally designed search, we made it extremely powerful. Some of you may remember, but going back to the days of our classic application, parts and pages were not exposed in the library. So we had to have a way to find those pieces of content within books. It was complex and, again, pretty powerful. And when we went to our newer version of the Documoto library, this search model was included. It was carried in, despite introducing the ability to find parts and pages directly within search results. And what we found through really countless hours of research with customers and actual end users of Documoto's mechanics, dealers, distributors, is that in our modern user interface, the search is too powerful, and beyond that, it's actually often very confusing for users. So, as many of you know, we've been working on search all year. First, we introduced the ability to sort and filter on where used, with a grid to improve the user experience. Next, we introduced complete control over your search settings via the new library admin search settings page. And finally, what this webinar will focus on is kind of the last two pieces of search that will launch by the end of this year, which will include the introduction of a new contextual search bar and significant refinement to search results, all with a goal to make something that is inherently complex in any platform. Search is always complicated, really as simple and easy to understand for library users as possible. So with all of that context, we're going to go ahead and jump into the demo. And for this portion, I'm going to we're both going to turn off our camera so you can focus on the actual demo here. So, okay. So we're going to be working in a fictitious industrial mowing corporation demo tenant here today, but the first thing that you're going to see is our new contextual search bar. So initially, when a user opens up the contextual search bar, they're going to see recent searches that they've executed as well as recently viewed. If you have recently viewed disabled on your homepage, it will also be disabled here. In addition, be aware that widget and generic users do not have a concept of recently viewed, so they will also not see this. If a user is brand new to Documoto and they've never searched anything or they've never viewed anything, then they're going to get an even more simplified view that just simply says, begin typing to find anything. The next thing that you're going to notice is on the top right of the search bar, we have actually eliminated exact versus contains. It was a very finicky dropdown. We've had a number of defects logged for that over the years. It's been kind of like whack-a-mole to try and support it. And so what we're doing instead is we're going to introduce support for using quotations to find an exact match. I'll show you an example of this later in the demo, but really the thought here is that, like Google or any other common search bar, most users know that inserting a quotation around a search term will force an exact match. If for some reason that is not intuitive enough for users, we will have a search tips tooltip here that'll give them some search tips, including to surround multiple search terms with quotes for an exact match, or type at least 2 characters to see a list of matches. The first time a user logs in as well, this search tip will pop up immediately until they, and when they click got it, it will no longer do that. Once I start typing into the search bar, this is where you're going to start seeing contextual searching. So on the right are suggested results. They are grouped by content type. So we can see 3 of each content type: parts, pages, books, documents, etc., all of the static content types. They will also see thumbnails, the identifier for that content, and names. The other thing you'll notice here is that we are giving them context into what is matching. So they're searching by X1 here, and there are the 3 parts have a match in the name. For this page, it's matching on a value in both the file name and the name. And if we scroll down further, we can even see that we're bringing context in from tags. So in this case, this document is returning because it belongs to the product family of X1. Keywords are also going to be retained, but they will behave differently. So today, all that you have in what we're calling the legacy search bar is suggested keywords, and when they click on them, it brings them to search results. In this new contextual search bar, if they click on a suggested keyword, it will actually populate the search bar and update the suggested results on the right. So you can see here it's refining the results. Further, if a user finds a matching result, they do not have to go to search results to open it. They can simply click on the matching result here and get that item viewer. Users can also clear their search bar. So if I wanted to clear this and search for another term, when I clicked into the search bar, this X appears, and they can begin typing to get another set of suggested results. Furthermore, if, as an example, this user is specifically looking for an actuator part, they are searching on it based on a part description. There may be assemblies that have actuator in the name, but they're looking for a part. They can, from here, to see more than the 3 that are previewed, is to click View More, and the results will be filtered down by part. So with this contextual search bar, what we're aiming to do is really help users have a clearer understanding of what they're looking at right from the start without ever having, in hopefully a lot of cases, to actually hit that search results page. Moving on, we're also planning to refine the search results themselves. I can't demo this today, but with the general availability launch of this in December, there are going to be a number of changes that affect what will appear both in the contextual search bar and what we call the search results here. So the first one that I want to talk about is we are eliminating what we call the roll-up of search, which is effectively when a user searches for a part or a page value, and we return books and pages that contain that part or page match. So let's use this actuator search term as an example. When I'm looking at the contextual search bar here, these 3 results make a lot of sense because the name has actuator in it. In addition, these pages make a lot of sense because they have actuator in the page name. But if I go to View More, and I get past these 3, from here, it's very, very confusing to the user of why would DBB gas train return, or why would park brake return for my term of actuator. And in a real world use case, maybe the user actually searched for a part number, and what they get in response is hundreds or thousands of results because that part number belongs to so many pieces of content. So we are going to be eliminating that roll-up, meaning in this case, they've searched for actuator. They are going to get 3 results on pages because those are the only 3 pages that actually have actuator applied to it. This change is aimed to reduce that clutter that users find today, which we have found to be the #1 cause of frustration in Documoto search, is the overwhelming amount of results because of this roll-up that we're doing. In addition, the other big key finding that we had from all of the research that we did is that users often feel lost within parts books and pages due to something that we call deep search capabilities. So I'm going to clear my search term here and start over and go back to my example of X1. So for this manufacturer, X1 is actually a product family. And when a user is searching for X1, what they're often looking for is anything for that product. So owner's manuals, service manuals, parts manuals for that X1. And today, what happens is the user will search X1, find a parts book, like in this example, let's open this CE parts manual, and something within that parts book will have that product family value on it. So in this case, there's a blower decals page and a part has X1 on it. This is extremely confusing to the user because what they really want to see is the entire parts book, and that deep search causes this break in their expectations. So if you go to the contextual search bar, it'll actually show you the future state behavior for both search results and the search bar. But in this case, I'm going to click X1. I'll open up a parts manual, and you'll notice that the search term is not carried in. So the user is appropriately brought to the top of the book. I should note, though, that we are planning to retain deep search capabilities where it matters. And that is if the user specifically finds the part that they're looking for and want to see, or the page that they're looking for and want to see where it's used. So in this example, let's say they really are looking at this blower decal and they want to see where in a particular manual it's used. So maybe here they look for Diesel Z, they find their parts manual for it. In this case, we're going to actually continue to use that deep search. So they can still find where a part is used. They simply have to go through part or page where used to do so. The other place where we're retaining deep search, I'm going to clear this and go back to my prior search term, actuator. We are going to retain deep search for PDFs as well. So actuator here, I want to find that part description in a service manual. If I open up the service manual, you will see that actuator plate is highlighted here. Another feature to note as I've been kind of going through this that you may have noticed is that because we are retaining the search term, which is a feature we recently introduced, the contextual search bar, every time I click on it, will reappear, which will conveniently allow the user to kind of go through and do whatever they need to find additional content based on their search term. So this will repopulate, and really to clear it, they either have to delete it or they can click this X. The final change that we're making that I can't to refine search results that I can't fully show today, but will be changed, is we're changing the way we're searching against translated content in Documoto. So today, users often report issues where they're searching for values in their language, but they receive matches that are confusing because behind the scenes, we're also searching against languages the user cannot see. So as an example, I'm going to search for generator, and I'm going to filter on parts. So my search term is generator, and the first result makes sense to me because it has generator in the name. But if I open up charging system here, the name is not generator, there's no description, and the tags don't include anything called generator. So to a user, this is really confusing, but what's happening behind the scenes is if I click this part to open it or to edit it, we actually have a Swedish translation for this part called Vaxelstrom's generator that the search is matching against. So while in this case, charging system and generator might be kind of synonymous terms, that is not always the case with two different similar terms used in two different languages. So when we introduce the new contextual search bar to general availability, this behavior is going to be removed. And from the library, we are only going to search for names and descriptions in the user's selected locale and the tenant default locale, which is typically English. So as an example of what this might look like, let's say you only have content in English, but you have a user browsing in Spanish. We will still search against English because that's your tenant default. If you do have Spanish and English content, we will search both of that, but we will not search, as an example, Swedish if that's not your tenant default. In addition, another thing to be aware of with this change is because we search against all different translations, which is this complete list that you see here, we're searching against roughly 30 different translations across 6 different fields. So part name and description, page name and description, media name and description. And that is very, very expensive from a performance standpoint for us to do that. So really, this change to focus translations on what the user's language and the tenant default, we really hope to mitigate 2 problems with this shift. The first is to reduce the number of unexpected results that may return from matching against translations the users cannot see. And the second is to improve performance of search queries in the application. So you should see some performance improvements as well as indexing improvements on our side for us to do that indexing. So if I start fresh here again, clearly our upcoming changes are going to introduce a lot of updates for our users. And there's going to be this period of time where the contextual search bar is in a beta period, but the overall refinements to search are not available in production. And so during this time, we are really working to exercise care to not affect search behavior for users, especially those that are not in beta. And as a result of us having to kind of split these 2 efforts in regard to beta, you're going to see some differences between the contextual search bar and search results during this time. So I want to kind of point out a couple of variances so you guys are aware as you soon get access to this. But the first is, I mentioned that we're removing exact versus contains here. So the contextual search bar, you have to use quotes to get an exact match. But we are not changing the search results page, and if your tenant default search type is exact, exact will still apply on executed searches. So to illustrate this, what I mean is, if I search catcher frame, I do not have quotations here, so what Documoto is doing is searching both catcher and frame. And in this example, there are hundreds of results between parts and pages. However, if I choose view all results here, when I get to the search results, there will only be 48, and that's because behind the scenes we are still, for this beta period of time, applying that exact search setting property to search results. So you will see 48 here, but in the search bar, many, many more. Now, to mimic exact here and the expectation for users in the future, I simply insert quotations around the search term, and the suggested results will update to 48. Another distinction, which I showed you earlier, but I just want to point out again, is that deep search into pages and books will continue to work from search results for now until the general availability launch, but it will not work from the contextual search bar. So if I search for X1 as an example again, and I filter on books, from search results, you will see the search term carried in. But from the contextual search bar, if I open up a book, I will not see that. So that's going to be a behavior difference that you see between the search bar and contextual search for both pages and books. All right. So let's go back into our slides here, and I'll turn back on my camera. Okay. So we really want to, I know I just covered a lot, and just to be aware, a recording of this is going to be available on our knowledge base after we have an opportunity to edit it. But just to kind of cover the break here, once again, the contextual search bar is moving into beta. If you have the enable library beta features user group privilege turned on, you will start seeing this contextual search bar, and that's starting now. We turned it on during this webinar for anyone in integration and production that has that user group privilege. During the beta period, we have a community topic within our help center for library beta features. We would love your feedback there. So if you have enhancement requests, general feedback, questions, you can go ahead and submit them via that community topic. If you run into bugs or issues, please submit them to support@documoto.com or create a ticket in our support center. And I do just want to warn you, or you all probably know this is a beta release. We do have some polishing left to do. Yeah, let us know what you think and let us know if you find anything that needs improvement. Everything else that I covered, though, as far as describing it, that is all going to be available with the general availability launch, which will be early to mid-December. So with that, you're going to see general availability of the contextual search bar. All users will get it. That will be in both the library app and library widget. You're also going to see the changes to eliminate exact versus contains application in the search results, the roll-up of parts and pages resulting in returning pages and books will be gone. That deep search into pages and books from search results will also be removed. And then we'll also be introducing those optimizations of language searching to both help with performance and to reduce confusing results from users matching on languages they cannot see. So again, you now have access to the contextual search bar if you're using that Enable Library Beta Features user group privilege. During this time, we encourage you to also capture screenshots for announcements or training materials. You will get an email from customer success on some resources available to you in our support center and knowledge base. And then in addition, for any customers that do have an integration tenant, you will have access to see those refinements in search results sooner. I think many of you know that integration is a lower environment, so often features are released there earlier. So you may start seeing changes in integration sooner. Otherwise, again, everything will be available in production at some point early to mid-December. The reason why we cannot do a beta period of these search changes, the refinement pieces in production, is because that they require major changes to our Solr or search database, and we really can't segment it in production for early access. All right, I think we only have one more slide. So resources, we've talked about that library beta features user group permission. The other resource that hopefully some of you are aware of, but we have launched a search log report in our data insights module. Check it out. You can see how users are searching in Documoto, what fields they're searching by, whether they're using browse flows, and it might inform some decisions for you around how you might want to tweak your search settings within the library admin search settings page ahead of the launch. And as always, I think everyone knows, but your customer success manager there is here to support you as well if you have questions or concerns.